The day it happened was supposed to be like any other. A quiet afternoon in one of the most expensive boutiques in downtown Atlanta, where the scent of designer perfumes lingered in the air, and the kind of place where people were judged the moment they walked through the door. But today, something happened that no one in that store would ever forget. She walked in, tall, poised, radiating authority. She wore a sleek navy blue pantsuit, tailored to perfection, with a designer bag hanging effortlessly off her wrist. Her deep brown skin glowed under the store's chandeliers, her high cheekbones and piercing dark eyes exuding confidence. Everything about her screamed power. But to the woman behind the register and the store owner watching from his office, she was just another black customer who didn't belong. At first it was subtle. The lingering stares, the whispered conversation between the cashier and her coworker, the slow, calculated movements as the store owner stepped out of his office, eyes fixed on her like a target. She noticed it all. The way they hovered, the way their eyes flicked to the security cameras, the way their smiles didn't quite reach their eyes. But she said nothing. She simply picked up a handbag from the display, turning it over in her hands, inspecting the craftsmanship. That was when the owner acted. "Ma'am, can I help you with something?" His voice was tight, forced. She met his gaze, calm and composed. "I'm just browsing." His lips pressed together. "Well, actually, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Her eyebrows lifted slightly. "Excuse me?" The employees behind the counter exchanged nervous glances, sensing the shift in the room's atmosphere. The store owner squared his shoulders. "You're making our customers uncomfortable," he said. She glanced around. The store was practically empty. "Who exactly is uncomfortable?" she asked. His jaw clenched. He had expected her to just leave, to mumble an apology and walk out. But she was still standing there, unbothered, unafraid. "I don't think that bag is in your price range," he added, his voice dripping with condescension. The silence in the store was deafening. Her expression didn't change, but something in her eyes hardened. "Is that so?" She placed the bag down carefully. "You don't know anything about me, but you assumed I can't afford it?" He scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. "Ma'am, I don't have time for this." Then he did something that set everything in motion. He reached under the counter and pressed the emergency button, a silent alarm. Then he picked up the phone. "Yes, I have a suspicious person in my store," he said, his voice laced with fake concern. "Possible shoplifter. Can you send someone?" She exhaled slowly. This was happening. Again. She crossed her arms and waited. Minutes later, the door swung open. Two uniformed officers strode in, hands resting on their holsters. The energy in the room shifted. The employees stiffened. The store owner straightened, a smug smile creeping onto his face. The lead officer, a tall, broad-shouldered black man with sharp eyes, took in the scene. He saw her standing there, calm, still, composed. Then he looked at the store owner. "That's her," the owner said, pointing an accusing finger. The officer approached slowly. He wasn't like the owner. He noticed the details, the elegance of her outfit, the way she stood, the confidence in her expression. Something wasn't adding up. "Ma'am," he started, his tone careful, measured. That was when she finally spoke, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. "Before you do something you'll regret," she said smoothly, "I suggest you look me up in your system." A flicker of hesitation crossed the officer's face. He glanced at his partner, who pulled out his radio. The store owner let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, come on! She's wasting your time!" The officers ignored him. "What's your name, ma'am?" the second officer asked. She gave it, slowly, deliberately. Seconds passed. The radio crackled. Then came the response. Silence. The officer's posture straightened. The tension in his jaw shifted. He turned to his partner, then to the store owner. "Sir," he said carefully, "you just called the police on the district attorney." The air itself seemed to freeze. The employees behind the counter went pale. The owner's face drained of color. No, he stammered, his eyes darting between the officers and the woman standing in front of him. No, that's not possible." She arched a brow. "Oh, it's very possible." The weight of the moment pressed down on him. He had just accused one of the most powerful legal figures in the city of shoplifting. And now, he had to deal with the consequences. The first officer turned to her, his voice more respectful now. "Ma'am, do you want to press charges for false reporting?" The store owner paled even further. Wait, what? No, this is a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" Her voice was sharp now, her presence suffocating. "You called the police on me for shopping." He opened his mouth, but no words came out. She took a step forward. "Do you know how many times black people have had their lives ruined by false accusations like this? How many innocent people have been arrested, humiliated, even killed because of men like you?" He swallowed hard. "Do you know," she continued, her voice now a controlled storm, "that false police reports are a crime?" The officers exchanged glances. She let the words settle before finally stepping back. "I'm going to make sure you understand," she said, "in ways you'll never forget." And just like that, she turned and walked out. Not rushed, not shaken, just like she had come in. The officers followed, leaving the store owner frozen in place. His employees stared at him, wide-eyed. For the first time in his life, he understood what true fear felt like. Because this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The moment she stepped out of the boutique, the air felt different, charged. The city hummed around her, cars rolling past, pedestrians moving along the sidewalk, oblivious to what had just unfolded inside. But she knew this wasn't over. Not yet. The store owner had made a mistake, a fatal one. Not just because he called the police on an innocent woman, but because of who that woman was. The district attorney. She didn't just fight cases, she decided which cases got fought. The officers caught up to her outside. The lead officer, the one who had recognized the situation too late, hesitated before speaking. "Ma'am, I just want to say..." She cut him off. "You did your job," she said simply, "but make sure the next officer knows when to question a call before pulling up ready to arrest someone." He nodded, not arguing. They knew. Everyone knew. She turned and walked toward her car, a sleek black vehicle that suited her authority. But before she reached the door, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. "A message. We need to talk. Call me when you're alone. No name. Just a number." She exhaled, sliding into the driver's seat, locking the doors. For a long moment, she sat there, staring at her reflection in the rearview mirror. Then she made the call. The line picked up on the first ring. "I heard what happened." The voice on the other end was deep, smooth, and filled with an edge of knowing. She closed her eyes briefly. "How did you hear so fast?" A chuckle. "Because people talk. And because you just rattled a hornet's nest." She tapped her fingers against the steering wheel. "I already know. That store owner, he's not just some random racist. He's connected." Exactly. And not just connected. Protected. Her jaw tightened. "By who?" There was a pause on the line. Then, the answer. "The mayor." Silence. A slow, creeping understanding spread through her. The boutique was high-end, sure, exclusive, but it was also a front, a place where certain people made deals, where money exchanged hands under the table. And she had just humiliated the owner, exposing his prejudice to the police, the employees, Soon, the public. The mayor would not be pleased. She took a deep breath. I want everything on him. Every shady deal, every backdoor handshake, every dollar that's moved through that store. The man on the other end let out a low whistle. You're playing with fire. I know. Her voice was ice. But I don't lose. The call ended. She started the car. This wasn't about humiliation anymore. This was about power, and she was about to make a move that would shake the entire city. The store owner was sweating. He had locked the doors, turned the sign to closed, sent his employees home. But it wasn't enough. He could feel it coming. The storm, the reckoning. His phone rang. He snatched it up. Hello? His voice was shaky. A familiar voice on the other end was sharp, impatient. What the hell did you do? He swallowed hard. I didn't know who she was. A long, cold silence, then a single deadly statement. You should have checked. His heart pounded. Can you fix this? The voice sighed. Not completely. The damage is done. But I can make sure this doesn't go any further. For a price. The store owner gripped the phone. Anything. Shut down the cameras. Wipe everything from today. And disappear for a while. He nodded quickly, even though no one could see him. Done. The call ended. He rushed to the back office, heart hammering. He had backups. He had security footage of the whole thing. But he also had something else, something no one knew. A recording, not just of today, of everything. Every shady deal, every dirty transaction that passed through his store. It was his insurance. And now, it was his only way out. He grabbed the flash drive, shoved it into his pocket, and reached for his keys. But before he could leave, he heard it. The sound of tires screeching outside. Headlights flooded the windows. His stomach dropped. They were here, and they weren't here to help him. The next morning, the headlines hit like an earthquake. Boutique owner found dead in apparent suicide. The news reports were fast, efficient, cold. They painted the store owner as a troubled man, someone who couldn't handle the pressure of running a business, a man who made one mistake and ended his own life out of guilt. But she knew better. As she stood in her office, watching the news play out, her grip tightened around her coffee mug. This wasn't a suicide, it was a message. Someone had cleaned up the mess. And now, they were coming for her. Her phone vibrated on her desk. She reached for it, glancing at the screen. Unknown number. She let it ring. It stopped. Then a text appeared. You should have walked away. Now it's too late. She stared at the words. Then, slowly, a smile curled across her lips. They thought this would scare her. They thought this would stop her. They had no idea who they were dealing with. She picked up her phone and made a call. When the line connected, she spoke 2 words. Let's begin. Then she hung up. And just like that, the real war started.